The moment the security guard pressed the delete key on Amazon servers, he had no idea that he was erasing more than just a corrupted file. What he deleted was a fragment of digital history, a piece of evidence that could have shattered the image of the world's richest man. His hand hovered over the keyboard for a second longer than necessary, a hesitation born of instinct. Behind the glowing screen, his reflection flickered in the dim light of the server room, and for a fleeting instant, he wondered if he was rewriting destiny itself. But this story does not begin with him. It begins with a golden Maui sunset, the rhythmic whisper of the ocean, and a man who believed discipline could shield him from chaos. Jeff Bezos had always preached balance. 8 hours of sleep, early mornings, meditation, and routines so precise they could be measured with an atomic clock. "I prioritize sleep," he once said in an interview, his voice calm, his expression unshaken. "Unless I'm traveling, I make sure to get those 8 hours. It's non-negotiable." To him, rest was a weapon, a secret tool that gave him clarity while others drowned in fatigue. At that moment, the audience had nodded, inspired, never realizing that within months, those words would become drenched in irony. Because even the most disciplined life can be derailed by the most unpredictable force of all, human desire. A month before the scandal broke, the billionaire had been standing barefoot on a Maui cliff, the Pacific stretching endlessly behind him. Lauren Sanchez stood across from him, her gown gleaming like liquid gold in the sunlight. They exchanged vows while Hollywood royalty, Fortune 500 CEOs, and political titans watched from velvet seats arranged in perfect symmetry. The press called it the wedding of the decade, a billionaire's dream woven into reality. Candles flickered, champagne flowed, violins whispered through the night. Bezos in his custom Armani tuxedo, Lauren in a $450,000 Valentino gown. Together, they looked like destiny itself. Yet, beneath the shimmer of orchids imported from New Zealand and champagne bottles that cost more than an average house, small cracks had already begun to form. Insiders whispered that during the ceremony, Lauren's eyes wandered too often, her attention breaking away from her new husband. She checked her phone mid-vows. She lingered too long in conversations with certain Amazon executives. At the time, no one dared to speculate. It was dismissed as nerves, as bridal jitters. But for those who were watching closely, the cracks in the fairy tale had already appeared. At the center of the whispers was a man referred to only as M, 42 years old, sharply dressed, a strategist known for his brilliance and ruthlessness. He controlled one of Amazon's most critical divisions from his glass office on the 38th floor of headquarters, a throne in the sky, a place where decisions worth billions were made over cups of black coffee. His reputation was both enviable and feared. Some called him a power broker. Others called him dangerous. What few knew was that Lauren Sanchez had been spotted more than once entering the building on days when her official schedule gave her no reason to be there. The truth began to unravel one winter morning in Seattle. Bezos left early for a board meeting on artificial intelligence, his mind already racing with numbers, projections, and long-term visions. Lauren remained behind, officially to meet with the PR team about shaping her new public role as the wife of the world's most scrutinized man. But plans shifted. Somewhere between the lobby and the 37th floor executive lounge, she crossed paths with them. Witnesses later recalled the exchange, a smile, a pause too long to be accidental, and then the two disappearing into the private lounge where walls of glass reflected every move. What followed was the stuff of rumor, the kind of whispered story that begins with fragments and grows into legend. They sat across from each other, the city's skyline sprawling beyond the glass, a bottle of wine between them. At first, polite questions filled the air, how she was adjusting, how difficult it must be to live under the constant lens of cameras. Then the conversation deepened. He spoke of the loneliness of power, of decisions that left him sleepless. She spoke of suffocation, of losing her freedom, of feeling more like a symbol than a woman. Two souls, stripped of their public masks, leaning closer in the silence between words. And then, according to the blurred security footage later discovered, a kiss. Not the quick, calculated kind, but a kiss born of exhaustion, of weakness, of need. That kiss would set the empire ablaze. The footage was discovered not by executives, not by journalists, but by a 35-year-old security engineer named Tom Anderson. During a routine system sweep, he stumbled upon the corrupted files hidden deep in the server. At first, he considered deleting them immediately. They seemed like personal, private moments, irrelevant to company security. But the faces on the screen stopped him. Jeff Bezos' wife, one of the company's most powerful executives. Anderson's heart pounded as realization struck. This wasn't just gossip. This was a grenade waiting to explode. He copied the clips to an encrypted hard drive, unsure why. Maybe instinct, maybe fear. Days later, whispers began to snake their way up the glass towers of Amazon. Executives traded coded messages. Blurry stills from the footage circulated in hushed conversations. Some swore they saw more than a kiss. Others claimed it was exaggerated, the work of jealous rivals. But within days, the story had left the walls of the building, carried by invisible hands to journalists, analysts, and eventually, Bezos himself. The empire trembled. Friends called from across the world: Malibu, Manhattan, Silicon Valley. End it now, some advised. She'll destroy everything you've built. A longtime investor told him bluntly, "You've always been in control, Jeff. Don't let a woman bring down your empire." But Bezos's reply shocked even those closest to him. What if it's not her? What if it's me? For the man who built Amazon, who never flinched in the face of regulators, competitors, or markets, it was a rare glimpse of vulnerability. As the days stretched into weeks, Amazon's headquarters became a stage for paranoia. Employees claimed they heard Lauren's laughter echoing down corridors where she shouldn't have been. Executives avoided M's office, as though it were cursed. Meetings turned tense, small gestures magnified into accusations. The digital evidence spread like wildfire: grainy video, whispered accounts, screenshots passed in secrecy. For some, it was proof of betrayal. For others, a conspiracy. The real question was not what the footage showed, but how it had spread. Tom Anderson found himself at the center of a storm. Should he hand it over to the tabloids and change his life forever? Should he destroy it and carry the weight of silence? Or should he take the most dangerous path, deliver the truth directly to Jeff Bezos himself? Late one night, in a small office far from the gleaming towers, Anderson made his decision. He compiled a report, every file, every log, every trace of metadata, and brought it directly to Bezos. The truth, as it turned out, was far more complicated than the rumors. The kiss caught on camera was not an affair. It was not a betrayal. It was a human gesture, a forehead kiss meant to calm a woman in emotional turmoil. After a brutal argument with her husband, Lauren had broken down. Himself scarred from a bitter divorce, had offered nothing more than comfort. The footage had been twisted, weaponized by someone inside Amazon who envied M's rising power. The real villain was not Lauren nor M, but a senior executive who orchestrated the leak to destroy them both. The revelation shattered Bezos, not with anger, but with clarity. He had nearly torn apart his marriage, his trust, his very foundation, because of manipulated images and whispers. Lauren received his apology. M was cleared and even promoted for his professionalism. And Tom Anderson, the man who chose truth over personal gain, was rewarded with a new leadership role in Amazon's ethics division. The conspirator who orchestrated the scandal was fired, his career ending in disgrace. And so, the empire survived. But Bezos himself was changed. He realized that control was an illusion, that even billionaires cannot choreograph every detail of life. His 8 hours of sleep became more than routine. It became sacred time to reflect, to question, to protect himself from the noise of a world eager to twist shadows into monsters. When Tom Anderson finally pressed delete on those corrupted files, he was not erasing evidence of a crime. He was erasing a lie, a shadow, a weapon forged in jealousy. What he left behind was not scandal, but truth, a truth that saved an empire, a marriage, and perhaps even the man who built both. Because in the end, this story was never about power or money. It was about trust, courage, and the fragile humanity that hides behind the glass walls of the tallest towers.